What was that like? Getting leg
Worst thing
kicked?
ever. Never again. The worst thing ever.
Low kick, the most underestimated but effective and dangerous weapon in mixed martial arts. Many fights in the history of the sport ended because of this ticking time bomb, and today we will talk about such cases. Dear friends, don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Ernesto Host. When we remember the old times speaking about the most vicious leg kicks, one of the first fighters that comes to mind is the legendary K1 representative Ernesto Host. This guy literally scared the hell out of his opponents every time he used his main weapon. Everybody was afraid of his low kicks. Nobody could handle that unbearable pain after Ernesto's kick to the shin or any other place on their leg. The most brutal and famous fights in Mr. Perfect's professional career that ended with such kicks are his bouts with Mirko Cro Cop, Igor Vovchanchyn, and Ray Sefo. However, Ernesto Host gave problems to more than a dozen fighters throughout his vivid sports career. His strikes were so heavy and sharp that they simply couldn't stay on their feet. It's impossible to lean on your limbs when you're up against a man who can break your legs with one or two attacks, or at least damage them to an extent where such performances might affect their entire future career and normal life. For example, Mr. Perfect faced the Croatian 3 times in his career. The first fight between the two took place in 1996. Back then, Mirko Filipovic literally tried to survive. Ernesto Host turned his legs into blood chops. He simply destroyed the Croatian policeman and limited his movement ability for at least a couple of months to come after this fight. The second bout between the athletes happened 3 years later. In the rematch, Mr. Perfect used low kicks as more of a feinting tool, but nevertheless, the result was the same. He battered Mirko, his limbs, and scored a stoppage win. The case with Igor Vovchanchyn was quite similar. The Ukrainian veteran had his debut at K1 Dream 99. Prior to that, he successfully competed in Pride and decisively beat every fighter he was given by the organization. But when destiny put him in front of Mr. Perfect, he didn't have a lot of chances despite all of his mastery. For 3 incomplete rounds, Ernesto Host didn't leave the Ukrainian fighter any options to survive. He tore his limbs into small pieces. Poor Vovchanchyn was being knocked down and rolling on the canvas after each strike from the Hollander. Nothing could save him, not the hints from his coach, nor the pressure, a will to win or a high pain threshold. In this fight, Igor gave everything he had, including his health. Speaking about Ray Sefo, no comments. In August of 1996 at another K1 tournament, the New Zealander simply went out to get killed. Mr. Perfect absolutely destroyed his limbs. Sefo received enormous damage to his legs, which significantly affected his professional career in the future. The main peculiarity of Ernesto Host is that most of the time he throws leg strikes in Thai style. More often than not, he lands his low kicks with the shin in the top-down direction, which, so to say, sliced the legs of his opponents. And he did that from any distance, and it didn't matter whether he was attacking or working as the second number and defending. When fighting against people mentioned above, he was making them feel tense every single second. These guys simply didn't know how to act in these situations. The whole time was mostly spent on observing Host's actions. The main focus was on his legs, and despite all of that, he still got hit with these strikes, moved backwards, tried to fight back, but the result was still the same, and every subsequent low kick turned their limbs into a formless bunch of bones and meat, which was simply impossible to stand on. Justin Gaethje. Right now, we would like to talk about a modern MMA representative who very well succeeded in using low kicks and became famous because of them in the first place. Justin Highlight Gaethje is an active UFC fighter who once was an interim lightweight champion, but today we're going to overview his earlier performances, in particular the time frame when Gaethje fought in a local organization called WSOF. One of the first fighters to experience a hellish leg pain because of the highlight was Brian Foster. The fight happened on March 12 of 2016. The fight didn't even last 2 minutes. Despite an impressive cage fighting experience, the American fighter couldn't offer anything to his vis-a-vis. Not the aggression nor the pressure could save his legs from permanent damage. Justin viciously battered his limbs time and time again. It seemed like Gaethje forgot about other kinds of strikes, and such a tactic worked unquestioningly. After a couple of knockdowns, another strike to leg literally dropped Brian down. He felt like a sack of potatoes, not having an ability or desire to continue fighting. Luis Palomino, who wanted to end Justin Gaethje's streak at WSOF 19, also experienced this weapon of mass destruction. Throughout a couple of rounds, the fighter from Peru desperately tried to resort to every possible tool and strikes from different angles, and even had success in some sequences. But Gaethje was merciless. Closer to the end of the third round, he butchered his legs so badly that after another such strike, Palomino went down, not being able to keep on fighting. It's scary to think of how much time he needed to properly recover from that, because such damage never goes away completely. Douglas Lima. Douglas Lima can be rightfully called one of the best modern era representatives of the mixed style, and on top of that hold a title of an uncrowned low kick king inside of Bellator. This guy caused problems to many fighters who came out to fight him. One such lucky man happened to be a Russian Sambo fighter, Mikhail Zarev. He felt the power of his opponent and a terrible pain in the knee area in full capacity when he fought the Brazilian. They faced each other in January of 2016 at the 86th tournament. At first there were no signs of trouble. The Russian was comfortably winning that fight due to takedown attempts and work on the ground, but only until the very last second. When the first round reached the 4-minute 59-second mark, Douglas Lima unloaded on Mikhail Zarev's knee and knocked him down. The Brazilian put so much power in that strike that the Russian fighter could barely make it to his corner. The next 5 minutes ended rather quickly. The next vicious low kick caught Mikhail at the very beginning. He didn't switch his stance after a heavy blow in the first round, even though it was clear that he was limping, and expectedly paid for that. Another strike found its target, and the Russian is on the ground again. A couple more of such attacks made the referee end this humiliation. Lima didn't bait on Zarev's invitation to work on the ground and finished the fight on his terms. In April of 2014, the Brazilian executioner faced a fighter from the United States, Rick Horn, who, like his predecessor, couldn't offer a worthy opposition. A couple of cutting-like axe low kicks painted Rick's leg in scarlet color. Each Lima strike to the leg made every fan shudder. It was hard to watch this merciless beating. The American fighter began to drop down on his butt after a third low kick, and by the middle of the second round, he himself realized how helpless he is in this situation. The referee saw impotence in his eyes and did let the Brazilian make things worse. Alexei Ignashov, Jan Noche. Now we're going to talk about some fights that happened in different periods of MMA history. The first one on the list will be the fight at the famous K1 event in 2003. Back then, the ring was shared by the Russian fighter Alexei Ignashov and worldwide famous kickboxer Jan Noche. The majority of the fight went in the following manner. The Russian stands completely covered up and regularly throws heavy leg kicks, while Noche only moves forward and tries to find his chin. The only thing he knows is how accumulative damage works. After every vicious low kick, he slows down more and more evidently, but doesn't even try to make any significant changes in his attacks. Of course, he can't completely dismiss these strikes. After another low, he tries to raise his battered leg and block, but gets hit to the calf instead. Damage continues to build up. In one of the moments, Noche can no longer ignore another low kick. He grinds in pain and jumps on one leg to the nearest rope. It's over. Alexei Ignashov scores a decisive and vicious win via low kick knockout. It hurts to watch. Gokhan Saki, Hiromi Amada. Another K1 fight, one of the most brutal leg kick knockouts happened in the fight between Gokhan Saki and Hiromi Amada. Athletes fought for a couple of rounds. During that whole time, the Turkish fighter intensively and purposefully focused on Amada's left leg. The Japanese furiously went forward and tried to fight with his hands, but every low kick from Gokhan cooled him down more and more and made him move backwards. We should give him credit for the endurance that he showed. He ate a couple of dozens of brutal low kicks, got sent to a standing knockout on one leg at the end of the second round, and by the third one, he could barely move. The final 3 minutes of the fight ended quite expectedly. Another merciless low kick slayed Amada's red and swollen leg and completely stopped him. The referee immediately stopped this beating and let the poor Japanese make it to his corner. An average person would have given everything away not to get hit with such leg kicks, and this guy took a lot of them. He deserves respect for inhumane endurance. Bas Rutten, Ruben Villarreal. In 2006, legendary veteran and Hollander in Bas Rutten decided to come back from a deserved retirement for the sake of another fight. At WFA King of the Streets, he fought against a local star, Ruben Villarreal. From the very beginning of this fight, it became obvious that it's going to be over very quickly. It was evident that the American's level of technique and mastery is not even close to the Hollanders. But when he went forward with some haymakers, the crowd's assumptions were proven. The expected result came to fruition in the middle of the first round. A couple of heavy low kicks from an experienced, qualified and professional fighter made things clear.
Only one or two kicks. Oh, there it is. There it is.
That's it.
That's it.
Villarreal couldn't get up due to unbearable pain, and Bas Rutten once again showed his mastery and decisively proved that even 7 years after his retirement, he is still in shape and can oppose a younger athlete. By the way, if you want a separate video dedicated to Bas Rutten in the future, let's get 10,000 likes on this one. Mike Bernardo, Andy Hoog. Two top fighters clashed at another K1 Grand Prix in 1996. Legendary Andy Hoog, who in his best years lost only two top fighters in the organization, including Mr. Perfect and a South African kickboxer, Mike Bernardo. 5.5 minutes, which in K1 rules counted as 1.5 rounds, that's how much time Andy Hoog needed to stop a powerful American. Precise leg strikes from the Swiss beat the hell out of Lucky Bernardo's legs. A spinning kick that landed precisely on the American's thigh deserved special attention. It became a decoration of the whole tournament and really entertained loyal fans of Andy Hoog. Poor Mike literally flew into the corner like from a gun shop and dropped dead, not willing to get up and continue the suffering. The referee counted to 10 and awarded the fan favorite with a deserved win. Jose Aldo Uriah Faber. Legendary Brazilian retired not long ago, but the legacy that he left behind those 10 years of true domination will be in the memory of his loyal fans for a very long time. Currently, Aldo has more than 30 clashes that he won, but we are interested in one particular fight. In 2010, an unstoppable Brazilian nightmare shared the octagon with the legendary veteran Uriah Faber. The fight took place at WEC 48. Aldo tortured the American fighter's legs throughout the whole 5 rounds. Every second low kick threw Faber aside like an explosion. He moved backwards, tried to defend, but all attempts to minimize the damage were pointless. He was getting hurt for 25 minutes. Every new attack was more vicious than the previous one. The result of the fight was obviously the legendary Brazilian's unanimous decision win, and one could only feel sorry for Faber and give him credit for handling all this terrible pain and going the whole 25-minute distance. Sure, this fight was not stopped due to a leg strike knockout, but we had to include it on the list, as this fight got particularly famous after there were photos and videos in the media where the American fighter walks on crutches and shows his legs that not only got purple, but also a couple of times bigger. Such an image once again proves how dangerous this sport is. That's it guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, don't forget about the likes and leave your comments below if you would like to see more from this rubric in the future. See you soon.